All right, welcome to our June 9th, 2026 LibsWork meeting. My name is Andrea Lewandowski. I'm with the New Jersey State Library. This is our last meeting of the 2025-2026 season, I suppose we could call it. And we'll be taking July and August off and then coming back in September. So I don't have a speaker today. There's no guest presenter. This is a LibsWork Lounge where it's an opportunity to kind of share updates, ask any questions that you might have, and just generally touch base before we take some time off this summer. So if you all don't mind, and I know that some people might not have cameras or might not have microphones, but I think we'll go around and do a round robin and just say hello and give some updates. Maybe if you could just share your name, your library, and then how about something either that you're proud of over the year so far, or something you're looking forward to in the next part of the year. And it could have anything to do with any of the topics we cover in LibsWork, or it could be something else entirely. But we cover a lot of various topics like entrepreneurship, small business development, job seeker assistance, workforce development. Everyone's getting into AI now, uh, digital literacy, other forms of literacy. So anything that you want to share would be wonderful. So I'll start. I already introduced myself. I was going to do it again. And we did an initiative in New Jersey called Money Smart for Life, and it was our first year doing this, where we highlighted financial literacy and encouraged libraries to host financial literacy programs in April, which is Financial Literacy Month. And there are things that I would have done differently and plan to do differently in the future, but it was a nice step into it. And I think that it's a topic that resonates with a lot of people. And there's a lot of partnerships that libraries can take advantage of to share all kinds of information about money with their patrons. Money is something that people often think about, and people want to make more money, save money, make better financial decisions. And it's a nice spot for libraries to create that conversation and to start those conversations. So for our initiative in New Jersey, like I said, we encourage libraries to host events in April. We put together some resources. We offered some professional development webinars so that library staff could become more knowledgeable about some of these topics. And then we had an award that was available for libraries to nominate themselves if they hosted an event over the past year. And we'll be giving those out by the end of the fiscal year. So hoping to do very similar work next year and get more libraries to participate and offer better professional development and more opportunities and kind of grow this conversation, maybe get some more partners or have other agencies in New Jersey also kind of get on board so that there's a little bit more of a spotlight on that. So yeah, that's what's going on in New Jersey. And for anyone just logging in, we're going to do a round robin and share what we've been working on or something that we're proud of over the past year or something that we're looking forward to doing in the second half of the year. So I will call on Danielle to go next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Zemer. I am technically with the Brown County Library in Wisconsin, but working very closely with our library system that supports Brown County, which is the Nicolet Library System. And I am working on a statewide workforce development public library project/initiative. So we just received funding for our third year for the project. From the Department of Workforce Development. So looking forward to, later this year and into next year, just kind of adding libraries across the state to the project. So then that way we can collectively support job seekers between our workforce development boards and our public libraries.
Thank you so much, Danielle.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Um, Kat, you also have your camera on, so I'll call on you next.
Hi, I'm new to the group. I found out about it at PLA. I am Kat Purcell. I am a career librarian at Champaign Public Library. We don't quite do workforce development here at Champaign, but we do job seeker assistance. Which is what I'm interested to connect with folks on and learn from y'all because we've seen so many different things with our job club program. In 2019, it started almost like we would jokingly call it our job seekers anonymous group because we would meet weekly until people got jobs. And we would just go over resumes, practice interviews, stuff like that. And then 2020 disrupted everything like it did to everybody. And we've been really struggling since. I am like overloaded with one-on-one appointments. I can't keep up with them here. But nobody's coming to our monthly workshops. So we are finally maybe exploring phasing those out since we've promoted them over radio shows locally, in the newspaper, on Facebook. And I do a lot of outreach because I'm a pretty outgoing person and I love to talk to people. And I still run into people who are like, I had no idea you guys did this. And then no one comes. So we don't know what's going on with it. But as I said, we have a lot of like one-on-one help. And primarily what I do is help people with resume reviews, practice interviews, cover letter assistance. We kind of do kind of like industry research for folks. We're big, very big that we're not counselors. Like we can't recommend what you should do with your life, but that the University of Illinois and Parkland College are like also right here in Champaign. I closely work with the folks of those groups and the IDES to help them connect to job seekers. So that's a very long story about what I do. And I'm so sorry. But in terms of things I'm excited for, I'm kind of maybe excited about phasing out the monthly thing because that will give me more time back to meet with people one-on-one, which is what it seems to need. So we'll see if that gets the go ahead from the board. And that's me. Happy to meet y'all.
Thank you so much. For anybody just logging in, we are having a LibsWork Lounge today where we're giving updates and having a conversation rather than a speaker. So we're doing a round robin now to do introductions, and I'll be calling on people who have their cameras on or unmute themselves, that kind of thing. But if you could put into the chat if you definitely can't use your microphone or you wouldn't be able to share that way, you can answer the same question, that we're the same questions that we're covering, which is basically what are you either proud of so far this year, or what are you looking forward to in the second half of the year? So Chris, you just turned on your camera so quickly, so I have to call on you next.
Well, hello. Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, nice to see everybody again. I've seen some of you all before. Some of you are new faces to me. Um, my name's Chris Baker. I am a public library consultant and a games and learning consultant with the Bureau of Libraries of the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, which is a big mouthful to always say to people, but that's our state education agency here in Wisconsin. And workforce development is pretty firmly rooted in my project portfolio from a statewide perspective. There were a lot of initiatives I worked on in the public library space when I was at that local level related to workforce development that there were some models of partnership building and collaboration building that were very effective on a local regional level that since I've become in my position at the state, we've tried to take that model and figure out a way to implement it to some degree on a more statewide level. And we've had definitely some success with that, some great success. Also, of course, some speed bumps along the way. We created this will be a really long story short situation, but there was a workforce development grant from the DWD about 2019 that our state agency had gotten and worked on with the Department of Workforce Development on a project called LAWDS, which was Libraries Activating Workforce Development Skills. And there were some really great, resources and deliverables that surfaced from that. But one of the biggest needs was for an ongoing community of practice to continue beyond the grant funding, right? And so around the time that the grant funding was ending, which I think was about 2022, was just about when I was taking over in my role at the Department of Public Instruction. So taking some of those models from the local level, we created what was called, we called it the Library Workforce Connection, and that is it was a monthly work group that would meet in Wisconsin that consisted of working librarians as well as library system staff, which is a really important distinction here in Wisconsin. We've got a little interesting little bit of a library ecosystem here where we are at the state, of course. We all, of course, have our local librarians, and then regionally, it's broken up into 16 different library systems, we call them, that each have their own HQ, each have their own consultants that are specialized in different things like continuing education, youth services, adult services. And then they can be a real excellent liaison to what's happening in the local level because we at the state, we are few and we just don't have the resources to understand what's happening in every pocket of Wisconsin. And so the Library Workforce Connection meetings were a great way monthly where we would host speakers and we would talk about actionable things to start developing for the local level, info share about national things. I would come to these LibsWork groups and then report that out at the Library Workforce Connection work group. But unfortunately, I think for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people in this group probably experience this too, workforce development is almost always kind of like an if they have time to put towards it because libraries are already stretched so thin and they're so busy. Even though we know it is not only a priority, but is like very attractive to funding bodies and to county boards and to municipal councils that if you can say we're helping people with digital literacy and learning how to job literacy and learning how to apply for jobs and such and so all of that is a long way of saying that eventually once we got to last year and the administration was considering removing all of our LSTA funding throughout the nation, there was a lot of like, oh shit, what are we going to do? We have to kind of figure out how to circle back around this and figure out how we can maybe do more with less if needs be. So we kind of paused our work group. And throughout that pause, myself and a fellow named Mark Yoakum, who we've presented for LibsWork before here, he's a workforce development consultant here in Wisconsin for libraries specifically. And Danielle Ziemer, who is in this call, Danielle already introduced herself. We decided that we wanted to try to build a more intimate community of practice that's a little bit smaller, that would be more manageable, that wouldn't just waste an hour's time on some librarian schedule where they just drop in and listen and then leave. So that way, what we can hope to do is we're really hoping to go to like this meeting to other national meetings, regional meetings, and our like 6, 7 people, we're going to put together like a bi-monthly newsletter, hopefully develop an online community of practice where people can ask questions with a message board system that we have at the state and some other actionable deliverables, including working to put more of the job pods in libraries that Danielle mentioned she's a leader of. And so that's really what I think we're hoping to do coming up here the next 6 to 8 months is formulate this more intimate community of practice, library workforce connection, redux, or whatever we're going to do, and start doing more actionable things with actionable deliverables. And then I can report out at some point to this group how that model works, and hopefully it'll be a smashing success. Thanks for
That
listening.
sounds great. That's really exciting. And, a very, a great realization too that you can do more with a smaller group, and great that you also have people like Danielle and Mark who are working with you on that. So, yes, excited to learn more. Okay. How about Jesse?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Usually don't have time for these meetings. I've been to a few, but it's been a couple months. So yes, I run the Workforce Center for the city of Burbank. That is part of Burbank Public Library. We are actually an AJCC and a career one-stop, but it's literally me and a workforce librarian that run it for the entire city. We are a small municipality all within LA County. So we actually don't have residency restrictions. So we see anybody and everybody who walks through our doors. I'm kind of a weird one where I do have my MLIS. I actually am trained through the NCDA as a career development facilitator. That's how I run the Workforce Center. On top of that, I am none of those things, truthfully, in terms of my actual city title as an administrative analyst too for the city. So I'm actually part of administration for the library. Go figure, right? It's all these weird little things. But I do run the entire Workforce Center. And I do have a workforce librarian that we work hand in hand. So we are called Job Connect. That is the Workforce Center. We're a small city, 100,000 people. But yes, in terms of CAT, guess what? Those one-on-one meetings, same thing. Can't get rid of those. We're actually always 60 days booked. We changed it down to 45 days booked. Now we're still just 30 days booked. constantly. And we do about 6 meetings, one-on-ones a week. That is actually the bread and butter because that's what most people want, no matter what type of workshops and so forth. Yeah, you get a very small number, 8 to 10 people maybe for a 1 month program. Otherwise, yeah, they all want the one-on-one because that's the reality, right? Each one is, hey, I have a special case. I want just my resume reviewed. Hey, I'm working in this. What can I do for this? And it's just that one-on-one touch that as long as I am still leading this program, we will always have, to the point of that, yeah, we're going to start bridging out to see if we can bring volunteers who are willing to be trained to do these meetings, right? Hopefully someone who's retired, who's on HR, who was past career coach, ideal, but who knows for sure, right? Because this is LA predominantly. So people who volunteer sometimes can't afford to volunteer. So they actually look for stipends and so forth. So yeah, that's the Job Connect portion. I also lead another portion called Job Connect Plus, which is a 12-week cohort that we do 3 times a year. That used to be a grant funded program. We do 20 participants with 2 navigators, right? These career navigators work one-on-one, each with 10. They do basically meet virtually every week. They come together as a group all together 4 times throughout the 12-week period. They do resume interviewing, networking, and career transitioning instructions throughout those time periods. So yes, I am putting that together. Being that originally was an SBA grant through Diane Feinstein's office back in a couple years back. Grant ended. Thankfully, enough people went through the program. They went to our council and literally shouted, please fund this program. We've been able to secure funding last year. We are able to secure another round of funding this coming year. Nothing permanent, but at least it's, still breathing life into that program. 12 weeks, they come to a ceremony. The mayor hands out the certificates at the end, so forth. Since we are a small enough city that we can still get council members and the mayor to show up to those events. On top of that, we also have alignments with SCORE, which is the entrepreneurial group, right? We do one-on-one mentoring for whoever wants through that program starting later this year. We have a cohort model for that through Icon CDC, who's out of LA, that will be doing an 8-week entrepreneurial course, very similar to Job Connect or Job Connect Plus. Basically, we have the one-on-ones cohorts. Same thing, we can do that for entrepreneurial starting later this year, and all for a workforce center of 2 people. Yeah, being stretched thin is part of our day-to-day. On top of that, right, we do a big annual expo, which 2 years ago had 3,500 people show up. Last year had 5,000 people show up. So yeah, that's what happens when you go to a large city. Yeah, 5,000, Chris, is not manageable. So we are gonna shrink that down to spread out to 3 expos a year. Next one being career transitions. We will only cap out at 250 just because at 5,000, we can't guarantee who we're helping, right? We can't talk to people. People will be in line for Warner Brothers for 2.5 hours and miss the rest of the event. They'll get yelled at by Disney, who I have to say, hey, Disney, thank you for coming and come back next year, hopefully. Yeah, those type of things. It's just one of those things where I'm just going day to day on top of everything else I do in here. So, but yeah, happy to answer any questions if you want to know how to balance things, because sometimes I even wonder how I balance things. But yeah, that's my update.
Thank you, Jesse. And I just want to point to the chat that Yazin introduced himself from I think this is the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. So if anyone else doesn't have access to a mic and you need to introduce yourself in the chat, you can go ahead. Otherwise, moving on, Lori, you also have your camera on, so you're next for me to call on.
That's quite a punishment for turning your camera on. I am not specifically involved in workforce development, but I come and watch what's happening just so that I can get the idea of what's going on. I am from Tennessee, the Tennessee State Library and Archives. So at the state level, we can only encourage people to offer workforce type programming and support. We have been focusing more on entrepreneurs lately than workforce because our Department of Labor does a pretty good job and we refer everybody there. So I don't have all the blessings and the issues that the last couple of folks have had.
Sounds good. Thank you, Lori. Nick, I think you have access to a mic.
I do. So, hi, I'm Nick Bastine. I'm a public librarian in Wayne, New Jersey. So, you might see from the chat that I spent some time in Wisconsin. Uh, so, I did grow up there. So, it's nice to see a couple other people there. Uh, and I provide, just like the others, some one-on-one services. And I'm looking forward to also trying, I think it's called JobScan. I'm looking to get a quote from them. And I think they were one of the presenters here at some point in the past, but I think it was like a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So just budgetary restraints, but looking forward to seeing if we can get that going and trying to see if we can target a different audience for that than what we currently serve. So that's kind of what I look forward to.
Thank you so much. Oh, Jesse, you got job scan thanks to that meeting. Okay, great.
Yes, it was one of those where right away I put it through because we were redoing all of our resources for the city. And so thankfully, yeah, just like quote wise, just to give an idea, I think it was 5,000 a year. That was what we're paying. I can't 100% know, but 250 seats, Nick, just so you know where if your budgetary issues are there. But yeah, but we're specifically not handing it out to everybody like other systems. We actually hand it out to our cohort. So like that way it's like a nice little carrot at the top for graduating, going through the 12 weeks. And then it's very slow and go. Trust me, I get arguments from our senior managers that like, well, I go, I can't give out everything because then we'll have no more space. So it's got to be a slow and grow type of scenario. But I get it. They look at per seat, per cost per year, and it's always budgetary, right? Everything's budgetary.
Right. As a side note, Fromagination is the best name for anything cheese related. So now I have to Google that, Nick. So thank you for sharing that. And then the last person for introductions, Cat CPL. I'm sorry, when I said cat before, I didn't realize we had two cats on the call, which I don't know if that's a frequent occurrence, but so Cat CPL, if you can come off mute and introduce yourself, I'll give you a chance. Otherwise, if you don't mind, you can introduce yourself in chat. Oh, maybe the other cat isn't there. Okay, so well, we can always circle back. All right, so thank you everyone for introducing yourselves, and I do see some like some cross sections, some things that came up a few times. So I'll give an opportunity, some space for you guys to ask each other questions if there's something that you want to know more about. You know, we talked, Jesse, thank you for sharing about JobScan. If anyone else has questions about that, or Jesse and Kat, you were talking about the one-on-one kind of appointments and some of those things. I don't know if anybody else has any feedback on what trends you're seeing with classes versus one-on-one, if there's anything that you found effective at getting people to come into your sessions, or you know, have that retention rate, especially for multi-part. That's another thing we could discuss. So I'll just stop talking for a second, and anyone please jump in. You know, this is a space for everybody, so I'll go quiet.
I can mention something in regards to one-on-one versus classes. So I work with our local business services team with the Department of Workforce Development, and we host monthly job fairs, two of which are large job fairs, not as large as events that Jesse plans. But the most recent job fair we had over 400 participants and over 50 employers. And we have discussed the options of pre-job fair planning over and over and over again, and have tried it sometimes with little to no success. But yet at the most recent fair, we did have our mobile lab present, and not only did the mobile lab see job seekers wanting to quickly update their resume and print, but we also had job seekers into our local job center as well as our closest public library. So just really interesting that, you know, if we offer the job fair programming, we have very little attendance, but yet we're seeing traffic kind of across organizations, literally during the job fair. So that one-on-one assistance and kind of that in the moment assistance is definitely what we're seeing as kind of a success here.
Yeah, that we do 2 job fairs a year. I started with just one a year. Um, and those were popular enough that there became a wait list for like employers. There's like we are usually in the 250 to 300 range of attendees, which is great for our community. The last 2 hosted ones that I did, I didn't even go out and like we used to send flyers all around town, and I didn't even do that this year because there's enough talk about it, which is great. Which is I think part of the kind of like confusion that we're seeing sometimes with that like those programs are so highly attended that people in the community want me to do them monthly, and I'm like I don't have the bandwidth. But nobody's coming to like the weekly workshops. And so we've tried or the monthly workshops. We do drop-ins too, just in case people like kind of want a combination. So at the top of the month, I do 2 hours at one branch and 2 hours at the other, where it's just a career branch or career drop-in, just come with other questions. And those get a decent attendance. Those usually can get between 4 or 5 people in an hour and 2 hours, which is great. But my past year's worth of monthly attendance has been 0 to 3. So I don't know. I'm not opposed to the idea of not really doing them a whole lot. I think they're worthwhile. We get really good presenters in when it's not even just me. Um, but it seems to be the community just doesn't want the group thing. As we all know, there's a lot of shame and embarrassment in seeking job help. So our theory is maybe just people prefer the one-on-one because there's a lot of reckoning with your identity when you're going through those processes. Um, but it's good to hear that you're also full up with one-on-ones, Jesse. I'm not alone, I guess, in that the job fairs are huge. The one-on-one's huge. Nobody wants to come to the monthly, which is just such a weird thing because like everybody else in my adult services department is so many people come to the tech help, so many people. We have a business specialist too. They also have they have bi-weekly meetings, and one-on-ones are just totally packed with those too. But oh, what we've tried to do some partnerships between me and the business specialist. Like, let's have a networking sequence. Let's have like a group hangout between business and career. And I don't know. I guess maybe as soon as people see a career, they're like, "Oh, nope." I don't know. But it's good to kind of hear what other people are seeing too. That just makes me feel like I'm not crazy. So thank you.
You're not, because like think about it. Like I have a major population here, and they
Yeah.
still don't want those,
Yeah,
right?
that's really good.
They just did
Yeah.
an interviewing one I want to say this past weekend. It's a weekend, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say they probably got 12, right?
Wow. Okay.
12.
Yeah.
And then for the
Yeah.
resume alone was like 8. And
Yeah.
that was just a
That's
one-off month program versus, yeah, the one-on-ones, it's always been so booked. And then we do
yeah.
actually offer, like, so we have, being that I'm part of a workforce group, I do have a larger partner. So like the Career One Step that I am is an affiliate site. We're considered like the little guys, and we have a larger partner. That's a comprehensive center. That's the next city over. That's Verdugo Job Center in Glendale. Larger city, larger everything. They come to our site once a month, and they get
Wow.
walk-ins. That's the only walk-ins
Yeah.
we allow is for them, and they're like a 2.5 hour window, and they'll get like an average of 8 to 10 people for that
Yeah.
drop in. But otherwise, yeah, for us, it's always a
That's
wait, always the one-on-one. And but at the same time, we also
ooh,
tell people we don't disappear, right? They make that
right.
one-on-one, they show up, they can email us, they can connect with us, whatever they need in the future. And I get people who said, "Hey, I met with you 3 years ago."
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll get that
I'll put up,
people too.
right?
They'll be like, I remember you. You helped me get my dream job. And I'll be like, I'm so sorry. I don't remember. But congratulations. I'm so glad I helped
Right.
you.
Oh yeah, I'll remember faces. I'll never remember their
Yeah.
names, and I'll tell them refresh my memory. But for the most
Yeah.
part, yeah, I tell them don't even worry about setting up a meeting. Just email me directly. Say
Yep.
with my
Same.
colleague, we will just put a new meeting on the books for them,
Yeah.
because that's the
Cool.
kind of little center we are. But yeah, I don't trust me. Our 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 even like our job fair, we don't want it to be that big. But
Yeah.
here's the thing: the city of Burbank is considered the media capital of the world. At least that's what they put on their byline. So we have Disney, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon,
Mhm.
Cartoon Network was here. Now that got swallowed by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
We have the media hubs here. And the other sad part was people were so desperate because we have our airport, a little small regional airport. people flew into our event.
Oh, wow.
And that tells you how desperate. But yes, we've had
Yeah.
thousands of layoffs in this area,
Yeah.
thanks to those studios. So that's why, like, we're such a weird outlier. Plus, we have LA who's had layoffs, so we get people all through LA County coming as a Hail Mary. So that's why it's just like we can't handle 5,000. And we're a library,
Right.
right? We are a small 3 branch library with maybe 90 employees. It becomes a library event, but because we're the workforce center, we are required now to do that. And so yeah, that one event took us 9 months every year, and we just can't do
Yeah.
it. Can't do it. So
Yeah.
we're going with smaller, easier events just because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's just what it is. But yes, the one-on-ones will always be the main thing. So we have to expand on it, right? That's just what
Yeah.
people want because they feel
Yeah.
they feel heard. That's really what it is. All these other local agencies, because don't get me wrong, I have main partners. EDD, that is the state agency for California, right? Department of Rehabilitation. I have these large partners. All of them, people complain. They gave me 15 minutes. They're not helping me. They're not doing anything. So it's those 1 hour meetings where they come back and we never get badmouthed,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we actually took the time to listen to somebody and actually give them like that one-on-one that's all they wanted, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I see your suggestion about smaller ones, Danielle. We partnered last summer with the EDC, the Economic Development Center in town, on doing a small just manufacturing one because we've had a hard time trying to figure out like how to make a smaller event without making community members feel left out. So because I already have such a wait list, like I have a wait list for my one in September, and I haven't even posted my live listing yet because there's always enough people who are repeats who want to come, but also like new people who've heard about it, which is great. I used to stress about it, but it's great. But then that means like if we start doing small ones, how do we do that without leaving people out? But also, what if we do industry ones? And then but they're like, well, where's our nursing one? Where's our teachers one? And because I can't do more than 3 a year, because I am a reference librarian on top of it. I mean, 4 hours a day I'm on desk for the reference, just doing regular librarian stuff. So it's like, it's such a fun, happy medium. But we are exploring that idea. And maybe if they let me get rid of like the monthly programming, then I can make more space for like smaller job fairs and we can explore it. That's what I'm hoping.
And I totally understand before I was in my grant funded position, I would not be able to do most of what I'm doing right now. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, we've just found that the small fairs are pretty successful. And we also, our fairs are full up till October, our small ones.
Yeah.
And so I totally understand, how do you keep things equitable across employers? And then, that's also where we can say, unfortunately, we're full. Our large job fair in November will, have plenty of space for you. So.
That's
Yeah,
good.
we've also tried considered like industry. We've also tried like geographic specific. So we do them across our county. And so we've considered like, for a Deep Pier location, do we just invite employers from the Deep Pier area, right? Our Howard location. And so, but again, that's all takes time, right? Like time to manage all the emails and the conversations and the recruitment and the wait list and all of that. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
So somebody had suggested, I think, in the chat about trained volunteers. Does anyone have any other suggestions for additional ways of, or maybe not even with workforce development, but other ways that you found to increase staffing or increase capacity outside of paying for new staff members? No. um, I know some.
Maybe I'll join in just to
Sure.
get a little bit there. So I actually had a series of workshops that were presented by a member of our community who's basically using that as kind of a launching pad to go into more of like a career-focused side gig, as it were. So in that way, it's kind of like one of the great opportunities of a lifetime that, oh, hey, this guy's going to do this for free to kind of get their name out and kind of get our feedback on what their program was, what their content was. So that was kind of useful. But they reached out to us, so I don't really have a great suggestion on how to reach out to them. But if you've got a suggestion, great. Sure, we can follow through, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. At the state library, I often get emails from people about, you know, I have a book or I have something I want to share. And then you have to, at least where I am, we can't prefer one over another. So we have to figure out how to disseminate that information without seeming most of the time it's saying no or reach out to your local library. But I don't know if any of you have had that where somebody reaches out and as Nick said, it can be a great opportunity. Sometimes you sort of have to vet and make sure that you have a somebody who's reliable and not trying to sell something like that kind of thing.
So at our Brown County Central Library, we do a how-to fest twice a year, which is 20 to 30-minute presentations by community members. And that's a really great way for us to vet what they are promoting in their skill set. And then it's a good way for us to then have an ongoing list of presenters then for other programming that we do. So not that we make all of our presenters attend How to Fest, but like I said, it's just a really good way to have kind of some pre experience with them before scheduling an entirely new program that's just based off of their skill set. We also offer Community Resource Tuesday, so that's inviting providers into our spaces for a set time every Tuesday afternoon. We invite 2 providers and really focus on basic needs, housing, food insecurity, things like that. But that's also another way for us to just kind of solicit interest to support the library. And then for those providers that would like to, we then kind of tap into them for other programming as well. So kind of some easy ways to, easy ongoing ways to recruit and then be able to tap into for other things.
We do a similar kind of thing, not like a how-to fest, but I love that idea. But just in terms of like hosting presenters, that's one of the weird spots that I found myself in since I don't have attendees to my workshops, but like I work closely with the business librarian. Is she regularly is like, hey, so and so has just created a business and they're just kind of starting to get their word out. They could talk on these topics. Is that something you'd be interested in? Or like, because we had success with our job fairs, we started doing free headshot sessions. And so I use my presenter money that I could give to most of my presenters the way most librarians use it, to my photographer instead. And then I kind of, in a weird way, like kind of let those new folks who are not going to ask for a stipend or a payment host my workshops. So I can instead offer those free photo shoots for like headshot sessions as payment for the photographers. And either way, I'm like getting the word out of businesses. And it is hard because obviously, well, not obviously, I started before I was a librarian as an artist myself. So having to kind of tell somebody, we don't always have like a budget to pay you as a presenter, but we're happy to like share your flyer in the community with your business name on it and put it up on our slideshow with promotional events and stuff like that, is usually for those businesses just kind of starting out a very happy way to like get them to help present. That helps them network, it helps them learn how to talk to people better, and it maybe leads to clients. Of course, we always have like a disclosure at the top. We just have like a little woo-foo form that's like, I promise I'm not going to try and sell your patrons anything. And I've never had an issue in 7 years of a presenter being like, hey, buy my book or something like that, thankfully. I don't know what'll happen when it happens, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'd say maybe tap into your local small businesses because they're usually happy to get involved, at least in my experience.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions for each other? Anything that has been kind of any sparks that you've have jumped into your head as a result of this conversation?
I just want to say thank you, Kat. That's actually a really good idea. We have an economic development department here at the city that really should be doing all that. But I feel like being the workforce center, a lot of the stuff that they should be doing ends up coming to us here. And so I do like the idea of maybe a new business type of like I don't know, whatever type of presentation that they can do, programming, only because, yes, I do cold emails every month to new businesses, just walking into the city, just letting them know we exist, any type of services they require, because that's the other thing I do is the business outreach, right? So, but yeah, I do like that idea of maybe there should be like a program that just says, hey, just something for the community. Especially because, yeah, like even though this building here, like in this picture, is old, this is from the 50s. We're gonna have a brand new building across the street that's supposed to be a 4-story building. That's just gonna be this huge thing. And so yeah, we will actually have a true workforce presence when they come into this building. Now they can actually go and feel like it's a workforce center rather than, hey, this is just a library. But yeah, I do like the idea of maybe a monthly or every so often quarterly type of new business presentation type of thing. I love that idea. Thank you. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll see in the past our collaborations between business and career networking classes have been great because I always get people like scared to talk to people. I'm scared for interviews. How do I just talk to somebody and network? And meanwhile, like my business librarian is like, I have all these new business owners and like, let's put them all in a room together and make them talk. So
So, Lori, you said that you work with entrepreneurs. I'm wondering if any of this is kind of, relating to programs that you might be doing in Tennessee or suggestions you might have for finding volunteers or making use of the entrepreneur communities.
We are just in the beginning stages of this, so yeah, not a whole lot to report there either. We have gathered uh, entrepreneurial librarians from we have 5 major metropolitan areas and worked with them a little bit. I'd like to see us get some academic libraries too, but mostly Nashville Public, which is our biggest library in the state, has been recording podcasts and trying to get information together. So I like their tagline, "We mean business."
Love that. All right. Anything else? Anyone doing anything with AI? Avoiding it?
I just make the pitch that it's never going to, until the general public revolts against it, use it as a tool to help you, basically, unfortunately. But I also deal with entertainment people who have seen it cost them their jobs. So it's a major iffy question. It's like only use it if you feel comfortable using it, right? But yeah, it's a tough one. Very, very tough one to try to broach.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. A can of worms. Yeah, and I've heard people talk about the translation aspect and like Jesse said, using it as a tool. But the danger can be when somebody just uses it to write their resume and it's not accurate. It's not a good um, uh, description of what their job experience is. There's also the concern about AI. I mean, that's kind of where JobScan comes in, right? AI reading resumes. And when you lose that personal touch, what does that do for that process? Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think, yeah, God, can of worms is like an understatement, right? Because it's like whenever we talk about AI in libraries nowadays too, I always want to segment it into like, well, uh what interest holder group are we talking about relative to that AI usage? Because that's the other like three-pronged question that I always butt up against is like One part of it, of course, is library users. How are they using AI? How do they learn about AI? And what is a library's goal or mission within that space to help educate folks? Um, and not solely with a it's bad, stay away, right? Like that would be very irresponsible of us as information science professionals just to plug our ears and be like, nope, sorry, y'all. We demonize AI, so you guys like that's gonna be our statement about it, right? Even if, although I know, I'm sure all of us on this call have heard horror stories about AI, especially like Jesse mentioned, as related to creative work and intellectual property. It's a freaking nightmare. But if we're responsible information science professionals and stewards of our community in that space, it's like the question arises, oh, is AI going to make librarians obsolete? And I'm like, no, 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 never. But I do think that librarians who plug their ears and don't learn anything about AI will be obsolete relative to those librarians that do learn and try to engage with it as something for their community, right? So that's like one segment is the users themselves, library users themselves. Then there's, of course, the whole other question of like, staff efficiency and AI tools that staff then would use. And then there's its own version of AI literacy for staff and policy and procedure and making sure that everything's being done legally. But, for a lot of those library staff members that are overworked, there are tool efficiency tools relative to AI, small rural libraries and such that could really help them do more with less truly at this point. Um, and then the other kind of third part of this ugly three-legged stool or whatever you want to call it is AI materials it created and engaged in libraries, right? Like AI books, metadata. Um, all of these are things that like all of them require different sort of procedures and policies that a library needs to know about. And they're all three sort of different specializations. One's like a more direct service area. One is more almost administrative and related to the board. And then one of them is pretty solely like kind of collection development and ILS focused. So that's wherein, there's also an AI work group that is being put together at the national level through COSLA. And I'm sort of tasked with our agency of updating our website with like public library resources related to AI, and that's like something I'm daunted to even deal with, and I'm not sure how I want to deal with it right now. I feel like most of the best practices work needs to be coming up from the working librarian, like on the boots on the ground level, because those are the folks who are actually going to be like, this is what we experienced that our municipality got mad about. That's like a real practical thing that another library can apply in their space. Or we created this AI policy for AI related materials, and y'all can copy this and also get your board to approve it, which you're not having to reinvent the wheel. So I'm really interested in the overlap of AI and workforce development, especially as related to those like three different parts of AI in libraries that I still struggle to even wrap my head around. But yeah, I'm just curious what other people think too.
I've had a professor at our local university come and talk about using AI in the job search just because everybody's coming to me with AI generated resumes and cover letters. And I was like, I previously had been very like 100% anti-AI. And he did a really good job. I was kind of nervous because that's part of what he does. But he did do a really good talk on like how to fact check it, how to verify your person interviewing you is not got a filter on their face kind of things. And I appreciated his outlook from that one. But me and my spouse constantly get into kind of arguments about it as he works in automation for software development, which is obviously largely supported by a lot of things like Claude and the vibe coding that they're all doing over there. So it's definitely like we are certainly in a good place in our relationship. We have been married for 15 years, but this has probably been some of the most contentious fights we've had. Aside from who was doing the dishes tonight in our relationship. So he definitely makes me aware of what it can do as much as I am like, I only want to be aware of it enough to have to tell people what they can do to not use it. So I definitely have big thoughts of it myself as well, more than I could sum up in a 10-minute even soundbite. But it's out there. I have seen, I gotta at least be aware of it. It's out there.
All right, we're coming down to the end of our hour, and like Kat said, I feel like such a big conversation and needs its own span of time to cover, but definitely something that's on everybody's mind, so we've got to be thinking about. So I think we have just enough time for a couple housekeeping things, and then I'll end the recording and wish you all a happy summer. But so as I said, this is our last meeting until September. We're going to take July and August off. So enjoy your vacation, enjoy everything that the summer has to offer for you. So we are supposed to return on Tuesday, September 8th. However, that's the day after Labor Day. So I'm thinking I might push it back a week because I know things are a little bit different in the South and Midwest, but in New Jersey, a lot of the schools start the day after Labor Day. And so I can imagine a lot of people harried and having that be a chaotic day. So I'll send the email on the listserv and the email to everybody who registers for the sessions to let you know if it's going to be that day or if we're going to push it back to the following week. Also, if you have any suggestions of speakers or topics that you'd like to explore in September and beyond, please let me know. I have to say that is the trickiest part of these conversations is just making sure that there's interesting topics and presenters to keep people coming back. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You should have my email address because I think I'm in your inbox, throughout the month, but I'll put it in the chat. And that goes for if you want to present. This is a great, yes, Kat, please share that in contact information or provide an introduction. And this is I hope that you feel welcoming group. This is a very conversational group. So if you would like an opportunity to speak on something, an update from your library, this I think is a low barrier of entry, a good opportunity to get comfortable, with public speaking or Zoom speaking or, just increase the number of opportunities that you have to present. So if you don't know another speaker, but you want to speak, please, yes, let me know and I'd be happy to have you. And then I'll also need help in the next year of just spreading the word. I think that sometimes people leave this group and then don't necessarily have somebody that replaces them or someone that tells them about this group. And so we could always share out and get more people in. So I'll be asking for some help with that as well, starting in September. But all of that said, thank you so much for being here and for any meetings that you were able to attend during the year. It's been great to learn from you all and be able to have this time together to talk about these topics that are so important in libraries. So thanks again and have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in September.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.